Camera set, here we go, ready? And 3, 2, 1, action.
Hi everyone, welcome to a very special edition of Hispanicize Hangout, presented by McDonald's Spotlight Dorado, which is a new program that they just launched to empower Latino filmmakers. And we're going to be talking about Latino representation in Hollywood, one of my favorite topics. As many of you know, Latinos are almost 20% of the population of the US, yet in front of the camera, we're less than 5% of the roles, and behind the camera, the numbers are even less. So we're going to talk about how we can change this, how we can use this program that McDonald's is launching to elevate our voices and to tell our stories. And I'm super excited to introduce you to the panel. The panel sounds so official.
I like it.
We're a panel.
Yeah, some of my favorite artists. Annie Gonzalez, who's an actor and a producer, and most of you know her from Gentefied, and you have a big movie coming out about the hot Cheetos, right? So I'm very excited to have you here. Jesse Garcia, who who's an actor, producer, and you've seen everywhere, Narcos Mexico and Quinceañera, and you were just in Ambulance, and Jessica Garcia, who's an actor, producer, writer as well, and you've seen her in many, many things, but most notably, or most recently, I would say, on my blog. And my name is Fanny Grande, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Avenida Productions, and we are a non-traditional movie studio here in LA that my husband and I co-founded, and we are committed to telling our stories and to empowering Latino filmmakers and other filmmakers of color to tell their stories. So thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure. I wanted to start with what made you want to act? Annie, was it something you watched on TV and you're like, oh, I want to be an actress? Or
I feel like it was embedded in my DNA. My dad's a performer. My mom is a performer as well. They met at Hollywood High in the theater department, and it's nature versus nurture type of thing. It was I've always known what I wanted to do, the chiquilla. So I'm so grateful that I get to actualize my dreams and work with such beautiful humans.
And you were sharing before we started that you actually saw Jesse on Quinceañera, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be like him, or
no,
I want to meet him, or
no, I neither of those things.
That's what you said. Well, you said something else, but okay, go for it.
I said it's been trippy to see people that I'm like, oh, you look like someone that I would know, and now you're on my screen. And because I'd never seen that, immediately I was like, I have a crush on this man who is in Quinceañera. I know I'm only 9 years old, but one day we're gonna catch up in age and I'm gonna rock his world. Little did I know I'd end up working with Jesse and JJ. Yeah, and it's been such cool. It's been so cool to have those full circle moments, and now to call him my colleague, my peer, my friend, someone that I revere and I learned so much from.
Yeah. And you rocked his world.
And I did rock his world.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made out.
We did.
Yeah.
Ow. Yeah. Okay, we're all going to see it soon on screen. What about you, Jesse? You came from Wyoming, right? Mm-hmm. And what made you say, okay, I want to be an actor? Because you grew up, in the middle of the country.
I never wanted to be an actor. This girl in one of my classes, a friend of mine, we were talking about, life, what we wanted to do with our lives. And she wanted to be an actress, a model, and kind of be in the entertainment business somehow. And I go, oh, that'd be cool. It's it's not a real thing. But I ended up going to one of these actor model search things. I can't remember what it was called. Of course, I'm not a model. Shocking. And, but it gave me the bug. So it started from there, and then a few months, I really dove into it. 2 classes a week. And those classes were dope because we always did original material. We wrote, produced, directed, and acted in all original material. So the part of the exercise every day is we would write our scenes that we would perform that night. And that's where I learned my foundations for what I've been doing now.
So it's because a friend told you. It wasn't even...
No.
in your periphery. And for you, it's like you saw Jesse, you saw JJ acting. You're like,
I saw my dad.
Well, your dad, obviously.
That's who I saw.
Gabe,
I
know,
just said I had crushes on him, and now I got to work with him. That's
yes. You had it in your, I mean, Gabe has been acting since he's a kid as well, and doing music. And
I mean, I saw him, but it was my mom. My mom had such a love for it because I was raised by a single mom.
Oh my
So
gosh,
she was the one that was like, would push me for school plays. We'd rehearse till 1 a.m. Like, she's like, if you're going to do this, do it. Take it seriously.
So it's about, if, it doesn't seem possible until somebody tells you, you can do this. This can be for you, This is why I think it's so important that the youth see themselves represented, because they can say, oh, I can pursue this career, because otherwise.
Wasn't really tripping on me being Latino. I wasn't really tripping on any of that. And then until it became apparent that it's a thing, that I said, and it wasn't even me saying being a Latino actor, because I don't really like the term, but it was, I want to get to a point in my career where I'm opening doors for others. And I've been able to do that. I've been able to help people get jobs, or like introduce people, and I like to connect people. So that was a big part of it.
And what about you, Jessica? I know a lot of people know you from On My Blog, but you've been doing this for a little while.
Yeah,
Diary of a Future President.
Yes, living in Addie, my Disney roots. But
Disney.
How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah, thank you. I carry her around everywhere.
I'm all my friends' biggest fans.
You're like her agent.
Exactly. Thank you. But no, I wanted to do this my whole life. I think I was like born reciting some kind of monologue. Like, this was just, I always wanted to perform. Like Annie, I'm an only child to a single mom, and the TV was my babysitter for most of my life. And I always wanted to do this, but I didn't know that it was possible because I didn't see it. So what I would do is I would see my favorite movies, and I used to get the scripts offline and write my own parts in them.
Wow.
Like, I did that for like Lord of the Rings. I did that for A Knight's Tale. Like, it was really big for me. And then I saw Funny Girl, which was like changed my life, because I was like, she is so eccentric. She's not this like classic beauty, but she's hilarious, and she is the star of this. Like, maybe I can do this. And I don't think it was until I saw John Leguizamo in Freak that I was like, wait, Latinos can be the lead, and it's just him on stage. Like, I want that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then nothing stopped me. I went to a high school that had a performing arts magnet, and I did theater from then. I got classically trained. But then again, like, where you got cast, it was like the most popular people got cast in this. Like, I was, again, like this small fish in this big pond, because it was a very, very hard theater school. Like, everyone would come from other places in Florida to go to this school. And then straight out of there, I moved to LA, and I didn't look back. And I waited tables like for 10 years. I was on Liv and Maddie and still waiting tables.
Wow.
Because you never know, when that next call is going to come.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, I don't know. There was something inside of me that my mom, I think, instilled in me that was like, no one's better than you, and you're not better than anybody else. But you need to find that part of you that makes you like stand out, and bank on that.
Yeah.
And I just kept that going with me, that I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, I was like, oh, I could go to college. I could go to school. Like, I could be a lawyer. I could be a doctor. I was like, nah, I could play that on TV.
Yep.
Like, this has always been what I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
And make
do
more
all
money.
of it.
You'd make more. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same thing for me. One of my first memories is performing like in kindergarten, like, and I memorized this monologue, and the adults were like, oh my God, I was like, oh, this got me a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Woo. But, I grew up in Venezuela, and I would watch TV and watch movies, and, I never thought of like, oh, there's no Latinos in movies. Because to me, like, I was like, my reference to what it is to be a Latino, like, is not when you live in Latin America, like, it's not on your face. It's very different from when you're here. So my whole life I was like, I'm gonna be an actor, and I also like rewrote like the script to Never Ending Story.
Oh yeah.
And now all my friends acting it out, I was like, oh yes. So I was a little director, But then when I moved to the US to pursue a career in acting, even in college, she was like, well, we can't cast you in a play because who's going to believe that you're in Shakespeare? I'm like, excuse me? We do Shakespeare in Venezuela, all over the world. Like, that is, even in college, I started getting that pushback. So I had all these dreams. But then, when I started pursuing the career as an actor, I've been on TV, I've been on film, tons of commercials. But it was so difficult. And I realized, I think for me, because I came from from another country. When I moved here, I was like, wait a minute, I got to do something about this, because we have lawyers in Latin America. We have teachers. We have everything. We're not just this one thing. We don't all live in East LA, you know, like that's a small part of who we are, of our identity. So I wanted to find out from you guys, like when you started actually, and you kind of hinted at it, Jesse, when you started pursuing the career as a career, right? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, this is a little different from what I expected or from what my peers who are not Latinos have to deal with?
I don't know. I feel like my experience is a little different because I grew up 6th generation. So my identity within the like Latinidad diaspora was like, yeah, like we're not a genre.
Exactly.
You know, so I never saw myself as such. Like I saw Funny Girl and I was like, oh yeah, I'm Barbara Streisand, I'm Bette Midler,
Me too, yeah.
I'm Beyonce, I'm Meryl Streep. Like I can do all of these things. Where I felt the separation was within the work that was being put out with our faces. I was like, we're a lot more nuanced than what we're giving. I'm from East LA, born and raised. Let's watch a film centered in Hollywood that's about East LA. It's very different.
Yeah,
I think,
it's not real.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just different. That is, like you said, it is one scope. It is one perspective. So my thing moving into it was, I'm a firm believer on, I don't want to talk about what I don't want, but I will talk about what I do want. Manifest destiny. I know what I want. I know what I'm going for, and that's why I'm so grateful that I have attracted like minds who understand the type of work that we're all pushing towards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But at the end of the day, if you look at the data, we're 20% of the population.
For sure.
So there's something, it's shifting, but there's something in this industry that's,
well, it's not just the industry. It's in our societies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in every industry.
It's true.
I mean, being a woman, being someone of color, of course, you're always going to be met with some sort of adversity. But if you keep looking at the adversity, then all you're going to see is adversity. I don't.
yeah.
You have a whole production company that you're the CEO of and a co-founder
Yeah.
of.
Because I was like,
Jesse
nobody's
was
gonna tell me
supposed to
no.
be a cheerleader in Wyoming. Jess was probably supposed to, burn down a house in Florida or something.
I still might.
Yeah,
I'd be
There's still
disappointed
time.
if you don't.
There's still time.
How was that for you, Jessica, when you started actually like pursuing it as a career? From what you like,
Oh.
I want to be a funny girl, and
I realized that those weren't the parts I was ever going to get submitted for. And then I realized quickly that I wasn't Latino enough.
oh yeah,
I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. I'm sorry. Please don't stone me to death. But I'm not. Entiendo todo. But that was really hard for me because then I realized, okay, I'm not Latino enough for the Latinos and I'm not white enough for these white productions. So I found myself always looking for all ethnicities breakdowns because I was like, okay, so they're looking for a person of color, but they don't have Spanish in the script. But like whenever I would book it, you would see that name change. Like my name was originally Sarah, and then all of a sudden it's like Maria. It's always Maria. But I mean, I come from a long line of Maria, so I can't really say anything. But it was hard to find where I fit in because I'm first generation, but like I'm Americanized to hell and back, So it was really tough for me to kind of see what they were if I was even going to be successful. And I, again, decided really early on that I either was going to, sit at the table or I was going to build it, and if I had to build it, that's all that I was going to do it. And I was going to make room for all the people that, who look like me and who want this. Because at the end of the day, that I know that I'm talented enough to be there. And I think a lot of times they try and push you down and back, no, you have to fit into this. You got to be this.
Yeah.
But I'm like, there's a million other people that are better at that than me.
yeah.
See me as something else.
But also, if that's all the representation you see, like you said, it starts kind of affecting how we're perceived as a community.
Yeah.
Media is so powerful, I know I wanted to be an actor because I saw the movies, and, people see a doctor and they say, I'm going to be a doctor because they saw it in a movie, there's so much power in media. And Jesse, I remember you also talking about you don't really speak Spanish and how that, when you first moved to LA, it was like, oh, you're not Latino because you're not speak Spanish,
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Each one of us speaks with a different accent.
Yeah.
Right. And we're from different parts of the world. But we're still Latino.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, from what you said earlier, we can all be doctors, lawyers, whatever we want. House burning.
I don't
You
know
know,
how I got to
arsonist.
be the arsonist, but Firestarter 3.
Yeah.
Because you're fire, mommy.
Yeah. That fire sign. I mean, I had to go through my own kind of like psychological stuff. I was like, am I creating stories in my head, or is this actually a real thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So am I creating a story that I'm not not Mexican enough, or I'm not Latino enough, or I'm not dark skinned enough, or I don't speak Spanish? Of course, there's the roles that I do need to speak Spanish, and my Spanish at the time was garbage. It's gotten better, but it's
Gotten way better.
It's gotten way better. I think, part of the solution to all this is that we have to be writers, producers, directors,
We have to.
content creators of our own destiny. We have to be building our own empires, just like you're building your own empire, which is very inspiring. That none of that other stuff matters. It's going to matter in the end. It's not, all of that's just going to be another story that we can no longer tell ourselves, because the solution's there. Not everyone is good at those specific jobs, but there are people that want to do the same thing that you do.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, we can be our worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has to do also because there's so little content that when one thing comes out, we sort of like, oh, it has to represent all of us. And that's simply impossible. And they're not my experience. I didn't even grow up in this country, but I see the affinity. So I'll watch anything that's Latino. I'll just put it on just so that we can send a powerful message to Hollywood like, hey, we want to see ourselves represented. But a lot of the nuances are not there because the people who are involved in creating these shows, well, Hentify obviously and Oh My Blog was created by our community, but a lot of the other content were not involved in the creation of it. So of course it's not going to be representative. So that's why I think it's so important that, like programs like the one that McDonald's is doing, it's actually empowering the storytellers.
Yeah.
Like, because at the end of the day, these young filmmakers are the ones who are going to tell the stories that are true to them. And we're so freaking diverse. Like, it's impossible to capture all of us in one project. Like, it's just impossible. And then, like you said, we're not a genre. And one of them fails, they're like, oh, no more shows for Latinos. We're like, wait a minute.
Nobody watches them. So
I think it's
we're done with them.
shifting, though.
It is.
I think it is shifting, and I think we're all here. I think that we're here as a result of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm excited to see. I'm excited. However someone is affected by my work, whether it's that's trash, that's not my experience, and it inspires them to go make their own. I did my job.
Exactly.
That's it. I'm in no control after I leave that set.
I'll say, like, I'm getting a lot more calls. Like, hey, just yesterday, we need a Latina cinematographer that directs. And the client only wants that. And I was like, yes, I'm getting calls like that often. So I think, I don't know if it's the pandemic, us being like, okay.
Shift in consciousness.
Yeah. So, like, I do see, like, the conversation for sure is shifting.
Yeah.
But we also have to, like, demand it. Like,
That's what I was going to say. We're demanding more.
Yeah.
I think for Latinos, we're so grateful to be here half the time. Like, we come from generations of people that are just grateful. They work their asses off and they're just grateful to be here. And I think now we're getting to the point where it's like, no, we've earned this. We worked for this. We can ask for more. Yes. And even in the beginning of my career, I was like, I'll do it for $2 and sit over there and just bring my own food. Like, you know what I mean? And like now it's like, no, like I should get what everybody else gets.
Exactly. Have you ever like turned down a part because you're like, nah, I'm not gonna play that stereotype?
Oh yeah, I was Jasmine. That's it. Like I will not be Jasmine again. I think I get asked a lot to kind of play the same, and I won't do it anymore.
So what kind of parts do you want to play?
Oh, I want to be everything.
Yes.
I want to go to a very dark place. I think a lot of people have seen me only do comedy, and I'm a believer that comedy stems from drama. So if you like my comedy, my drama's even better. So
she's a star.
God bless you. But yeah, I want to be the opportunity to do everything. And I also want to write and produce and direct. And I'm developing my own things.
Right.
And I want to be one of those people that are like, I want a showrunner that is a Latina.
Yes.
Like case closed. Or after that, a woman of color in general. Because if we don't demand those things, we're not going to get them.
And that's how things are going to shift. We're going to create our own content. We're going to demand our place at the table. And we have to support each other. That's like the key.
Yep.
The three ingredients. Have any of you noticed, like, especially you, Jesse, because you do a lot of TV and film, like, are you working with more like Latino directors or Latina directors?
Yeah. And it's cool to see some of them, like a lot of them are friends too. Like it's cool to see some of them thriving and getting like really, really great gigs and kind of, but I want to touch on why I think, especially now that the younger generation, and I use this analogy for a bunch of different things, for mental health, for a lot of things, for politics, everything, is that I think, especially over the past 5 years, is that this generation, the younger generation, has a lot more tools than we did. Mm-hmm. So they have more access to more information immediately. You know what I mean? So that there's no excuse to not have representation. So if programs like this that McDonald's is doing is super important, that they're kind of on the forefront of, being a catalyst for conversation, for representation in all media.
And if you think about it, Latinos have been in media forever. Like, who invented like the multicam?
Yeah,
a Cuban American.
Desi Arnaz.
When Hollywood was starting, there were so many Mexican actors that came from Mexico because cinema in Mexico is even better than here. So we've had a very important part of building this industry. John Leguizamo, who's inspired I don't know how many people. Like, hey, you know what? They won't cast me. I'm gonna write my own thing and tell my stories and inspire the next generation. Yep. So we've been here. The little representation that we've had, but we've actually made like really, really big impacts in the industry. So imagine once we're all like, more of us are part of this, and it's a huge industry and we deserve to be a part of it. And our stories are fascinating. And I'm just excited for more people to see different facets of who we are as a community, Yeah.
I think it's important for people that have been kind of established characters within the industry, like Eva Longoria. Mm-hmm. She's doing everything within her power to extend a hand down to pull people up with her. Mm-hmm. It's like this the movie that Annie and I did, Flamin' Hot, all Latino cast. But I think that's important too. Is like, and John's doing it too. John Leguizamo,
America Ferrera, Wilmer Valderrama.
Yeah, they're all kind of like reaching their hand down and pulling people up with them.
But we have to do that. But you know what? You don't have to be like, I'm not a celebrity, but like, we launched our own crowdfunding platform because we're like, okay, what's in the way of Latino filmmakers? Okay, funding. All right. Yeah. You know what? People can go to the community and get the funding. Like, you don't have to be a big name to make an impact. You can mentor the next person, right after you. Like, we mentor kids. Yeah. Things like that.
What's Rafa's, the thing
the youth cinema project. Yeah. And they also have the Latinx in animation. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of work being done, and it's really exciting to see. And, obviously, I think Edward James Olmos has been like the most outspoken person. And at times we'd be like, come on, Eddie, don't talk like that anymore. But you know what? Like, listening to him speak that way. And I was an extra on American Family. And I remember I was an extra. It was the middle of the night. And he went like this, like, thank you for being here. He didn't have to do that, But that little thing that he did, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this, But really embracing and speaking up, because like you said, a lot of our culture is like, oh, we don't want to rock the boat sometimes. But I feel like, the younger generation is like, no, I'm here. This is my country. Look at all the content creators, on TikTok, and they have huge followings. They have their own audience. They're telling their stories, and we can do the same thing in Hollywood, which is super exciting. I want to talk to you about uniting and demanding our place at the table, because that's what the cast of On My Block did, right? Mm-hmm. I remember, because Netflix never released
the numbers,
and the first time
Tell us everyone's numbers.
I will.
But the first time they did, it was On My Block, #1 show everywhere in the world, something crazy like that, right?
We were the #1 binge show of 2018.
Yeah, and then, but then there was like, oh, well, we might not have another season, or we will, but then the cast got together and like, okay, but we want to get paid just as much as the other show. Like, can you share with us how that was? Or?
Well, I was not in that conversation because I didn't become a series regular till season 2. Yeah. So they fought for it. I just reaped the benefits of it.
Oh, good.
But and I to be honest, I can't say that we were anywhere near where other shows on their platform were. But they fought, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm just thankful that they, like, the producers allowed me to be a part of that at the end of the day. But it was kind of scary there, because again, you want to be like just grateful to be there, But at the same time, you're like, no, our numbers are doing like astronomically. Like, this is crazy.
Well, everyone else takes a risk too on their own. So like, why can't we?
So yeah, and we've actually other shows have like other actors from other shows have said like, we wanted to do what you did, and we did that. And we're like, oh, okay,
Good.
that's
So
great.
it did inspire.
It has, which is great. But it was terrifying, to go out on that limb.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful that they did it.
That's great. Well, so I wanted to ask you each, because you each got to play a role that was not a stereotype, right? Which is kind of a gift. And I was just wondering, like, how that was for you, like on Gentify, obviously quinceañera. I mean, you've played different roles, but I feel like quinceañera was like so revolutionary because we never saw like a gay cholo before, who was in contact with his feelings, And obviously, you were in charge on my blog and stole the show. So what was that for you to be able to be free and not play the stereotypes?
Well, for me, Jasmine began as almost a stereotype in the beginning. And then when season 2 came, I spoke with the producers and writers, and thankfully they were on the same page. I was like, the person who's the class clown is typically the one dealing with the most at home. So I really wanted to explore that and show that. And they were on board. And then you got to go home with me and see my father and everything that I'm dealing with. And that meant the world to me, because I've played that, like, the funny best friend my whole career. So that was a blessing, real blessing. And what I will say about On My Block that I think was so revolutionary is there's so many shows where you see gang members or you see like, that type of representation of us, but you don't get to see how they became that way. You don't get to see that child that, comes from a certain type of home, that this was their life. So I think that's really one of the best parts and one of my favorite parts about On My Block.
And super special for the youth watching it. Right. Yeah. What about you? Because, your character, you were educated, you're like, I'm going to go for my career, but family was also really important. How was that for you?
It was beautiful. It felt like I got to pay homage to my tias, to my mom, to any and every woman in a academic environment, It will always hold, it was my first, so it will always hold the most special place in my heart. And then to do it with friends, that just, that will always take the cake for me. It'll always be my favorite role that I've ever played.
That's so great. What about you, Jesse?
I wasn't in Gentify.
No, like, even like that, I know in Quinceañera you play a cholo, but we get to see him as a human being, and he fell in love, and he was very different than what's out there.
Yeah, I wanted to play him. So when I auditioned for that, I had long hair and like looking semi-homeless like normal.
Like right now.
Like right now, basically. But I wanted to play him like I wanted all of his kind of character traits to be a discovery for the audience. You know what I mean? I didn't want to give him a stereotypical like lisp or something, or to have him speak, super uber cholo. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to give him a little bit of an edge, but I didn't. It wasn't what's up, it wasn't. That wasn't him. And it was a special thing. Like they kind of the directors had, they were amazing, but they kind of let me like run with it, and they also were on the same page that I was. Like he's just this kid, and like there's a lot of kids, from East LA, Echo Park that, speak not quite like me, but with a little bit of edge. But they're not all. Not all the people from East LA speak the same. You know what I mean?
And that role really opened a lot of doors for you, right?
Yeah, I think, it's funny because I think that movie and that role and those roles, all the roles in that movie were ahead of its time. Yep. And it opened up a lot of doors for a lot of us. Emily Rios had a great career. She's having a great career.
Hummer limo.
What's that?
She wanted a Hummer limo.
Hummer limo. That's funny. And a lot of the actors and the directors and the producers like Anne Clements, she's killing it. She's doing so many huge shows right now. Remember Me. And the directors, and everybody.
You don't know me, but remember me too.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
It was just, I think it was a movie, a special movie that the community really embraced. And it was kind of like, yeah, it was one of the first movies to show like this Latino kid who happened to be a cholo, happened to be gay, that was in a kind of a sweetheart, indie darling of a movie that launched everything for me.
It feels like with everyone here, all the roles could have easily been stereotypical, but everybody came bringing their most authentic, nuanced self, like the truth of what it was. So I think you have such gifted artists all at this table who understood that, yes, we can play the stereotype, and even within the stereotype, there's so, like you just said, there's so much more to be discovered.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You guys are
Well, a
cool.
stereotype is showing just one facet, but I feel like when you bring the humanity,
100%.
it's no longer a stereotype, right?
Yeah.
And I started making movies because I was an actor like all of you, and I was like, okay, I am done playing this invisible negative stereotype. Like, I don't want my kids, my kid's really young. I didn't want my kids to see themselves represented as just the criminals or the stereotypes. So I decided to start making movies. And then when I wanted to make my first feature film, it was so hard to get the funding, even though I had won so many awards. So I went to the community and I asked for funding, and it was really beautiful because everybody gave me a little bit of money, and then they felt like we're part of this. And all I said is, I'm going to make a movie about our community in English without stereotypes, a little bit of Spanish, obviously, but and that was such a whoa, such a wild idea back then when I did it about 10 years ago. And then the beautiful thing is that because everybody gave me a little bit of money, they felt like it was their movie. They had pride in it. Mm-hmm. And they showed up on set, and I didn't have to pay for locations or food or extras. The cast itself was giving me their money back that I was paying them because they really believed in the mission of the film. And then when I tried to sell it, nobody would buy it. I was like, oh my God. So I went back to the community, and people started requesting the movie at their local movie theater, right? And that's how I finally sold it. And that just tells me, first, there's a lot of talent out there. And second, we want to see ourselves represented. And there's pride in our community. And I wanted to tie that with this program, Spotlight Dorado, that McDonald's is doing. And it's really great because what they're doing is they have this open call for filmmakers. And they're going to select 3 of the filmmakers, and they're each going to get $75,000 to create a short, which, a lot of our community, we make features with that.
We did a short for a lot less than that. Yeah.
Yes. So $75,000, 3 of them are going to get that. And then one of them is going to get a year contract to create content. There's so much talent in this community, and we want to see your stories. Mm-hmm. As you see, it makes a difference when you take a chance in yourself and you tell your stories. You're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it for all of us and our entire community, and hopefully you're unifying us. We all have these passion projects, and sometimes we don't want to share it with the world because we're like, oh, no, somebody's going to steal it, or it's not good enough. And then when you put yourself out there, you don't even know what magic can happen.
Or be shy and do it anyway.
Yeah.
I cried every single day after set on Gentefied. I'd go home and I'd text Jesse hey, so did I do okay? And every day after that, he would just hit me.
Gentefied or Flamin' Hot?
Both, Gentefied and Flamin' Hot. I had
because I wasn't in Gentefied.
I know. We know.
I would, and I showed up every day. So do it terrified.
Same.
Do it.
What they say that's where the magic is, on the other side of fear,
100%.
right? And even if you're we want to see your work. We want to celebrate you. We want you to be at this table having this conversation. And I just wanted to end this conversation with, what words of inspiration do you have for those upcoming filmmakers, actors, writers who think it's impossible?
We need your voice now more than ever.
Yeah.
What you think is true. It's going to sound silly and cliche, but the crazy people that believe they can change the world do. Mm-hmm. I'm a little girl from East LA, single mom, only child, no reason in the world that I should be here, and yet I am. And I'm doing great things, and I am so excited to just keep going after your dreams. It's possible. What you think is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. The things you speak become the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
dream big, write your own, produce your own stuff. A lot of times you get filmmakers or artists or someone says like, I don't have the money, I don't have this and that. There's really no excuses.
You got a phone.
You got a phone. You can get you don't even need a microphone. You can shoot something with just the phone. It's all you need.
And don't be afraid to fail. We at this table, we're continuously failing. Like we've gotten maybe not you. We've gotten like a bajillion no's. Like I was saying, I was waiting tables and on a show because I might not be on that show the week after. But that didn't stop me from wanting this. And I think that so many people out there are so scared of failing, but it's part of the journey.
It's the best part. Enjoy the journey to mastery. Fail up. If you're gonna fail big.
Mm-hmm.
If none of this is real, right? We're in a simulate. Like, why not make it up yourself?
Absolutely.
We can do that. We've been told we can't, but we can do so much. We have to stop limiting ourselves and using the right language towards it. Affirming language. You are brilliant. You are powerful. You are strong. You are worthy. Your story is important.
Yes. And for me, I think the best advice is have a dream that's so big that you cannot do it by yourself, right? That it truly is so much bigger than yourself that you cannot quit because it's about the community, right? And just take actions, small actions every single day, you know? And even if you just make it a quarter of the way, you're going to be so far ahead. Like, for example, I wake up every day and I say, okay, what actions am I taking today to transform the way my community is portrayed in the media, right? That's like my big dream. And, you know, we're all doing it. Like being here tonight, you're part of like my mission. So thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.